Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 16 Public Beta 2 and iOS 16 Beta 4 have been out for a few days, and there are even more features that have been discovered since the initial iOS 16 Beta 4 is out. What's new video? So I wanted to cover that. We'll also talk about the overall experience a little bit later, bugs, battery life, and more, and also talk about the YouTube community poll where you had a bunch of different comments with your experience as well. We'll talk about those toward the end of the video. Now the first thing is someone was posting on Twitter that the iPhone 6s wallpaper had made a return in iOS 16 Beta 4. This is untrue, and it is not in Beta 4 or Public Beta 2. So I just wanted to clarify that. Some people were saying it was there. It definitely is not. Now, 9to5Mac found that an always-on display definitely seems like it's going to be with iPhone 14 or 14 Pro. The actual wallpapers, such as the clownfish wallpaper, you can see here from their animation, they actually were able to activate this, and you'll see it sort of dims like an always-on display would. They found that this is actually not just a static image anymore, but a multi-layered vector image. So that's something they've found. It looks like it will be there for the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. So we'll have to wait and see. They definitely could bring it to the iPhone 13 series, but they probably won't. Now, if we go to the lock screen, a new feature here is if we press and hold to try and change the wallpaper, you'll see it says unlock to edit. If it's not unlocked and we press and hold, it will now ask you to unlock to edit. We'll give it a moment here. It unlocks, and we'll go back in one more time. Press and hold, and it says unlock to edit. So that's just a new message that's there on the lock screen. Also in the lock screen, if we go back, you'll see it says do not disturb. You can now tap on the focus mode directly from the lock screen and then go in and change the focus directly. So that's something that's new. You can't do that in Beta 3, so they finally made that tappable. Now within those focus modes, if we go into one to edit it, there's some changes there as well. So we'll go into the mindfulness focus. We'll go to the same thing on the iPhone 11, go into focus mode with Beta 3 on it. Under mindfulness, you'll see it has customized screens, and you can customize your watch from here. I didn't show that in previous versions, but you'll see mindfulness has add schedule instead of add automation now. Now in the initial what's new video, I showed you how there's new icons for count, stack, and list within notifications, explaining how they should look. Now when you have this on count mode, it'll actually show a little bit different next to do not disturb. It will actually show underneath it with the number instead of next to it, so it makes it a little bit easier to read. Within wallpaper, if you've deleted most of your different lock screens and we go to delete this one, you'll see we don't have a focus here, but we have a focus on the one we're currently using for do not disturb. If I go to delete the one without a focus, we get a message that says this lock screen can't be deleted. Now this is actually in previous betas as well, but I just noticed it recently, and you'll see it says you need a default lock screen that's not linked to a focus. To delete this one, create a new lock screen. And finally, the last thing in wallpapers, Apple is focusing a lot on wallpaper and the lock screen. You'll see under weather and astronomy, in Beta 3, part of the moon was missing. In Beta 4, it looks to be fixed. And if we go in, there's more detail, and it changes throughout the day. The same is true with the Earth here. There's more detail as well. So it looks like it's a little bit better with the Earth detail and just the different versions. It looks a little more high resolution. The same is true with the moon also. When you go into messages, there's some changes as well. Within messages, if you're within a group text and we go into the keyboard and then we type someone's name here, there's actually their little picture next to it here in the suggestions now. So you can use that and just type their name, and it just lets you better know who that is. So again, if I type the word Zach or Zach's name, you'll see his little icon shows up there as well. Also, if we go to leave a voice message and maybe we just type some text in here and then we want to leave a little voice message, it actually gives us a new message saying to record an audio message, clear type text. And this is actually new. It said something different before where they've updated it. If we go into settings, tap on our name at the top and then go into our family settings. And within our family settings, you can see on the left with Beta 3, the colors are changed with Beta 4. Family checklist went from orange to purple, subscriptions went from a reddish pink to more of a teal blue, and purchase sharing went from more of a blue to more of a green or seafoam green color. Location sharing has a different shade of blue as well. Within the OS, there's a new font in the code. Thanks to Steve Mosier for sending this along. He also posted this later on Twitter, but you can see here it says there's a new Sticks font added to iOS 16 Beta 4. So Sticks General, where it appears throughout the OS is hard to say, but it's in the OS code at least. Also, to go along with fonts, they've updated more in Books. So if we go into Books, go to our settings here, Under Settings, go to Themes and Settings, then tap on Options. Under Options, go to Fonts. Under Fonts, we have a bunch of new fonts. There's not a ton of them, but you can see them here side by side. So if we go to Themes and Settings on Beta 3, you'll see here there is Avenir Next. That's a new one. There's also Canela. Hopefully I'm saying these properly. And as we go down, you'll see more and more. So we have Proxima Nova is a new one, Publico, and maybe a couple more. So there's a few different fonts throughout Books that may help if you want to use this. One bad thing though is Books no longer has the page turn still. They haven't brought that back. You just scroll. Before you could turn from left to right like a real book. Under Settings again, if we go down to Display and Brightness, scroll to the bottom, under Display Zoom, they've made a small change here. So from Beta 3 to Beta 4, it used to say Standard, now it says Default. So maybe that has to do with future versions on different phones with different sizes, or iPads or more, but now it says Default instead of Standard. Within the TV app, there's a small change. If we go to our account in the upper right within the TV app, and once you're in your account settings, at the bottom it says Sync My Sports. It says sports, leagues, teams, and athletes you follow will sync across Apple News, Apple TV, and other Apple apps. So it's a new option if you want to turn that on. Also within TV, if you're watching a live game, such as a live baseball game, and if you watch it in a windowed mode, there's now play-by-play. So that's actually showing live now, where it's actually showing the play-by-play written out in text as to what they've done. Now in Beta 4, I had a user send in that when they activated low power mode, it would actually switch to a different version of 5G. Right now it says 5G, it switches to 5GE. So you can see that there, and it just is a small switch. And also, if you're using dual SIMs, you may see additional icons below the battery also. So those two things seem to have changed in Beta 4. If you're seeing this, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Also, when setting up your iPhone again, thanks to Matt for sending this one in, you'll see it now says transfer from nearby iPhone and use a QR code. It also used to have the option to convert to eSIM. That seems to have been removed this time around when you're setting it up. So again, small changes that Apple's making here and there. Now, the first time I went into weather, I got a new splash screen that says announcing severe weather alerts. Be notified when a severe weather alert has been issued near you. And so if we go into weather and give it just a moment to load, tap on the bottom right menu option, and then in the upper right, we have some options here for notifications. Now we've had these before. Sometimes they would turn on or wouldn't turn on, but you'll see here, I can't turn on these buttons, severe weather or next hour precipitation. Those should be working now, but I have to have this always allowed in my settings. So if we go into settings, we need to switch it to always allow for location. Then we can turn on severe weather and next hour precipitation alerts. So this is updated in Beta 3. Some of this was in Beta 4, but now we've got that splash screen to go along with it. Now within Beta 4, some of the drop shadows on the home screen appear to be much shallower, much better to look at, not quite as deep, and in some cases with Beta 3 and earlier versions, they would be much, much deeper. Now they're still there in some cases, but they don't seem to be as severe with Beta 4. So it's minor, but something to note. And also, the first time you go into your Spotlight search, you get a new dialog that pops up. It says you can search the web, your contacts, nearby locations, and see personalized suggestions as you type. You can adjust this in settings. You can learn more and hit continue. Once you tap on continue, you can just go in and search. And search overall seems to be a little bit better. Some people are actually seeing a little arrow in the upper right where it's showing that it's a link to something else. I'm actually not seeing that, but some people are. But the overall sort of results in general seem to be much better. News, photos from apps, and more. So much, much better results. It seems to be getting better as the betas progress. If we go into notes and we press and hold on something that we've typed and we scroll to the right, we can now search web again. Before, we didn't have the option to search web. So that's actually something that's been there for a while. It was removed and now it's back. So you can actually see here with Beta 3, it's just not there. Now we have search web again. They've updated the health app. So if we go into health, we go to medications. They've changed this a little bit. So under about medications, some of the graphics are a little bit different. That's not anything huge, but there's some nice changes for medications. So you'll see the graphics on Beta 3 versus Beta 4. If we add a medication, maybe we'll search for one here, and you'll see here it says possible matches instead of top matches. There's less information, but if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we can also add that medication if it wasn't already listed. And if we tap on the medication, you can choose the medication type. And then you also have a show more option now. So maybe it's not listed. You want to change it to foam, gel, or inhaler. You could do that, but we'll just tap on tablet for now. Tap on next. We can also add a custom medication strength. And so we'll go ahead and just select one here easily. Tap next. We also have the time of day. So when will you take this? We'll just add one. Tap next. Then we have our different pill options or shapes. They've updated some of those as well as far as the graphics. Tap next. Tap next again, and you'll see we also have a skip option now where we didn't before. And then we can change some of the different things here. We'll just continue, and you'll see it looks basically the same once you're done, but you don't have the export option next to it as well. So there's slight changes all throughout here, and it's nice that they've actually added all of this information. They continue to refine it. And again, that graphic is changed here. Get more from your health and more. So you also can export down at the bottom instead of up at the top. Also, to go along with health, if we go into settings, go to general and then iPhone storage, under iPhone storage, there's a new health section with additional data. So if we go under health, it's easier to just search for it. Go under health, wait for it to load just a moment. Now it took a moment to load, a minute or two, and it was a little bit buggy. I had to open the health app with the link at the bottom in order for this to work, but you can see the different data types and the storage they're using. From active energy, walking and running distance, steps, resting energy, heart rate, stand minutes, exercise minutes, flights climbed, environmental sound levels, and walking speed. Also data sources, and it tells you where it's coming from. Different watches, although I'm only actively using one. If we go into the music app and we're playing some music, maybe we selected a device, whether that be HomePod or AirPods, you'll see I have my HomePod Mini selected. On Beta 3, the icon is blue instead of white, so it's a small change. I think I actually like that it's blue to signify where it's actually sending the music to, whether that be a HomePod, AirPods, AirPods Pro, or anything else. Additionally found within the code is additional customization for the Xbox Elite 2 controller. So if you use that and you use some of the different buttons, you'll have more customization. Also, there's code changes, and thanks to my friend Steve Mosier, he sends these to me, but then also posts them on Twitter. And as you can see here, as we scroll through, iSight prescription text changes, lots of things like that, where you can either enter the details or upload an image of your prescription. Some of these things I mentioned earlier that I found myself as well, and many, many more wording changes. So to prevent collection of pins, Apple will block pin entry if a different app is using the microphone during tap to pay on iPhone. Some nice security updates. There's also text changes with a personalized spatial audio instruction. Hold iPhone 10 to 20 inches from your ear, hold iPhone 20 to 50 centimeters from your ear. And slight changes to different images, to the different things and medications I mentioned before. Some things he finds as well, and I've mentioned in different videos also. But report spam home invitations to Apple. This was also in 15.6, but it looks like it's in 16 beta 4 as well. So it's really nice to follow along here if you haven't already. I highly recommend following him if you're interested in all the little code changes everywhere throughout. Under battery settings, there's a small change also. So if we go into battery, give it just a moment. I'm still at 100% battery health here. And you'll see over the day here, it actually tells you when it pauses during the night. So we've had these little bars before, but they'll give more detail depending on what day you're on. So sometimes it shows it, sometimes it doesn't, but depending on if it pauses at night at 80%, it will let you know. And you'll see it says last charged to 80% at 3 p.m. today. So it actually was on the charger in my car a little bit and at home, but you'll see for the most part, it's okay, but battery life is improving a bit. Some people say it's quite good, but I've had 3 hours and 49 minutes of screen on time, 2 hours and 53 minutes of screen off time, and used about 50% of my battery. Some people are having different experiences where it's much better. But my battery health overall is at 100%, and I'll post my numbers here as far as the overall cycles off of Coconut Battery. It's a free app for the Mac, but it is not in the App Store, so many of you have asked me about that. Now, as far as the overall performance, no issues there whatsoever other than the storage loading, and it seems to be pretty good, whether that be loading an app, going into music. I haven't had music crash, some people have, but it has been getting a little bit warm, specifically when I was actually checking the health app. So where I was checking settings, health, and storage, it was getting quite hot earlier. And let me show you the heat itself. Now, as you can see with the FLIR thermal camera, it's about 96 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is getting a bit warm. And then over here on the iPhone 11, you can see that on the screen screen as well. If I flip the iPhone 11 over, you can see it does get a bit warm just sitting here, but that's typical ambient temperature. It's about 75 degrees Fahrenheit here, and the phone is getting a bit warm, much warmer when going into storage than doing anything else though. But I thought I'd show you with this thermal camera. As far as bugs and the overall experience, it's been pretty good, but there are some bugs in it. In fact, changing the wallpaper a few times before this video, it actually resprung or resprings and crashed entirely. I've had that happen. There's also a bug you can duplicate by going into your settings. And if you go down to Mail, under Mail, you'll see here it says ask before deleting under the messages section. If I flip that switch, it will crash every single time. It will actually change the status of it, but it will crash every time you turn that on. So if you go to ask before deleting, you'll see it's on again, turn it off, and it crashes settings every time. So there's definitely some odd bugs. Also, there's some bugs I experienced when touching the screen to wake it up. It just wouldn't do anything. It would turn on and then immediately go dark. Then I'd touch it again and it would work. So that's something that seems to be a problem sometimes, and there's odd touch bugs from time to time as well. Also, a couple people mentioned that when they updated to public beta 2, it failed and went into recovery mode. They had to use a computer to update. So that's something we haven't seen with previous betas for quite a while. 3 people so far I know have had that issue, probably more. As far as iOS 16 beta 5 and public beta 3, probably we're on a weekly cycle, which means we could have it Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. That's typically what Apple does every time this time of the year, where we'll go to a weekly cycle. After beta 4, we'll go to beta 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, then a release candidate, and then we'll have a final release sometime in mid-September. Typically, that's what they do. We could still be on a bi-weekly schedule, so it could be a couple weeks, but typically it's weekly at this point. Also, we're still waiting for possibly iOS 15.7 betas or even an iOS 15.6.1. Apple stopped signing iOS 15.5 earlier this week, which means you can no longer downgrade to it. When they do that, usually within a few weeks, we'll have a public release again. So we could see a 15.6.1 or 15.7 betas, or maybe they'll just hold off and wait until iOS 16. But either way, I think we'll see some sort of release to fix minor bugs sometime in between. But again, everything will switch over in mid-September. Now let's take a look at the YouTube community poll and just a few of your comments. Manuel said, I want to share that I've noticed that my iPad Pro consumes about 15% of my battery per day sitting idle, even if it's switched off. Today I found out why. It's the Apple Pencil. Must have it always in a case and not attached to the iPad. I personally haven't found that to really cause a difference, but I know some people have mentioned it, but I'd be curious to see if you tried it again after a hard reboot, if that actually changes anything. Jay Street says, it's okay on my iPhone 10. I'm using public beta 4 or beta 4. The volume lags a little bit when turning up or down. Otherwise, it's pretty smooth. I did forget to mention that some people do say the volume lags a little bit when you're changing it. Sino said, I'm on developer beta 4 for iOS 16. Has been fantastic beyond the 2 UI issues / glitches with the lock screen. Battery's so good that I managed to achieve 5.5 hours on the iPhone SE 2020. So there's definitely some issues still with beta 4. If you're having issues, be sure to report those in feedback, as Apple uses that to correct it. But this had the most bug fixes of any beta so far, and so tons of things have been resolved. There's still a ways to go though, so I would expect hopefully that beta next week. Of course, if you found anything else, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.